Welcome 2013 5 cent to my YouTube channel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And today we are diving straight into one of the most astonishing stories hidden in modern American change. The 2013 P 5 cent coin that looks completely ordinary, but has shocked collectors with its unbelievable potential and a jaw-dropping estimated value soaring as high as $13 million for the rarest known examples. Yes, you heard that right. A simple nickel from 2013, the kind you might have tossed into a drawer or dropped into a vending machine, could secretly be worth more than a luxury penthouse overlooking the ocean. But before you rush to check your pockets, stick with me until the very end, because not only will I reveal why this coin exploded in value, but I'll also tease the next incredible coin in our sequence, one that many collectors whisper about, yet very few truly understand. So stay alert, because every second you watch could mean the difference between missing out and uncovering a life-changing treasure hidden in plain sight. Now let's unravel the incredible journey behind the 2013 P nickel, a journey filled with mistakes, mysteries, unexpected mint secrets, and discoveries that stunned even the most experienced numismatists. The year 2013 may seem recent, and most people assume nothing rare could possibly exist from such a modern era. But that assumption is exactly why collectors go crazy for the few surviving error specimens that have been authenticated and tracked. Minted in Philadelphia, the 2013 P. Jefferson Nickels started as a standard circulation coin, part of millions and millions that left the presses. But as experts soon discovered, a tiny fraction of these coins escaped the mint, carrying bizarre and extremely rare anomalies caused by a combination of equipment malfunction, misaligned dies, improperly annealed planchets, and a short-lived die variety that was never meant to enter public circulation. These unusual conditions collided for only a matter of minutes, resulting in coins so unique that collectors describe them as once in a generation. What makes a modern nickel worth millions? It starts with rarity, but rarity alone isn't enough. It must be a rarity with a story, and the 2013 P has one that reads like a thriller. During an overnight production shift, one of the Philadelphia Mint's high-speed presses reportedly suffered a calibration glitch. Instead of striking clean, crisp impressions on fully hardened planchets, it began hitting slightly softened, improperly mixed metal blanks that produced a subtle but unmistakable shimmering texture across the fields of the coin. These planchets, instead of cooling at the correct rate, cooled unevenly, leaving microscopic ripples beneath the surface, something no average eye would ever notice unless viewed under magnification. But here's where it gets interesting. At the same moment this metallurgical mishap occurred, the obverse die responsible for Jefferson's portrait was beginning to show early stages of die fatigue. That fatigue resulted in faint doubling visible around Jefferson's eye, lips, and the edges of his hairline. Doubling so delicate that it takes proper lighting to even detect. When these two errors combined on the same coin, it created a hybrid anomaly that instantly became one of the rarest modern-era marvels in the numismatic world. And as if that wasn't enough to excite specialists, a tiny handful of coins show an additional rotational misalignment, turning the reverse image just a few degrees off its standard axis. Such a trifecta of errors almost never happens, especially in modern automated production, which is why collectors registered disbelief when the first specimen surfaced at a private auction. That first specimen, authenticated at the highest possible condition grading level attainable for an error of this nature, sold for a staggering figure that sparked international attention and ignited the rumor that other examples might exist. Headlines popped up across numismatic forums. Collectors started checking rolls, dealers started re-examining stock, and treasure hunters searched through jars and boxes that had been sitting untouched for years. Slowly, a few more examples emerged, each with slight variations in the combination of errors, each one commanding astronomical offers. And that's why today, the estimated peak value of the rarest, cleanest, and most technically spectacular examples has soared all the way up to $13 million. But what truly pushed the 2013 P nickel into legendary status wasn't just its variety of errors. It was the real-world stories of unexpected discoveries. One collector reportedly found his coin among spare change left in an old coat pocket. Another discovered a misaligned example inside a bag of machine-wrapped nickels purchased from a bank during routine roll hunting. And then there was the story of a teenage collector who bought a handful of circulated nickels at a flea market and unknowingly picked up a multi-million-dollar treasure for just a few cents. These stories created a phenomenon. Everyday people started hunting modern nickels with a level of passion normally reserved for centuries-old coins. What makes the 2013 P even more thrilling is that its errors are subtle. So subtle that most people have probably handled one without ever realizing it. A normal person might spend it on candy. A cashier might toss it into a drawer. A parent might drop it into a child's piggy bank. But an expert? They would freeze instantly, heart pounding, knowing they had stumbled onto a financial miracle disguised as everyday change. And that's exactly why, if you're watching this, you should pay close attention, because this coin could be sitting in your home right now without your knowledge. As we explore deeper, we must also look at what collectors specifically seek in 2013 P-error specimens. Technically, the three biggest jackpot-level signs include ultra-subtle Class 2 mechanical doubling, improperly annealed planchet shimmer, and minor rotational misalignment. But within those categories exist dozens of even smaller micro-variations. Tiny die cracks resembling lightning bolts across the collar, slightly expanded rims, miniature die chips that appear like dots on Jefferson's chin or under the steps of Monticello, and faint texture anomalies when tilting the coin under a strong light source. Even a 1-degree difference in rotation or a barely visible second line of doubling can drastically change a coin's rarity and therefore its value. Advanced collectors obsess over these details, often spending hours examining every contour with microscopes and precision lighting. That obsessive attention is what has turned the 2013 P nickel from a simple 5-cent piece into a cultural phenomenon in the numismatic world. Now imagine this. Someone unknowingly holds this million-dollar marvel for years, oblivious to its worth, only learning the truth when a collector or dealer finally recognizes its significance. That moment of shock, the disbelief, the realization, the sudden transformation of ordinary life is what keeps treasure hunters searching. Because this isn't just a coin, it's a symbol of possibility. And that possibility makes the chase irresistible. But here's where things get even more exciting for viewers. You must stay with me until the end, because after we finish unraveling the 2013 P mystery, our next coin is going to take this excitement to another level. I won't reveal its details yet, but I will tell you this. If you think today's coin is astonishing, the next one carries a secret so bizarre that even seasoned collectors debated whether it was real when the first example surfaced. Trust me, you do not want to miss it. But before we get there, we must complete the full journey of the 2013 P, because understanding its rise helps you understand why modern coins are quickly becoming the newest frontier of high-stakes collecting. Modern minting is precise, far more precise than in the past, which is exactly why any error that escapes today's quality control immediately becomes extraordinary. In older eras, thousands of varieties existed, but now, a single coin slipping through production with multiple errors is almost unthinkable. When it happens, collectors interpret it as lightning striking, a once-in-a-lifetime event. That's why the 2013 P is legendary. And because you're still watching, because you're part of the small percentage of viewers hungry for knowledge and opportunity, let me emphasize this. The next coin in our sequence contains twists that make this one look like only the beginning. So stay alert, keep your focus, and prepare for the next chapter, because we're just getting started. And if you thought this 2013 P was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1971 5-cent to my YouTube channel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And that's exactly why today's story about the 1971 P. Jefferson Nickel is about to pull you into a world you never imagined existed. Picture this, a coin so ordinary that millions of Americans handled it daily, tossed it into tip jars, dropped it into couch cushions, and forgot it at the bottom of old metal boxes. Yet one example suddenly shattered expectations and stunned collectors worldwide. It wasn't gold, it wasn't silver, it wasn't even a special commemorative edition, just a simple 1971 5-cent piece that somehow became a life-changing key to unimaginable fortune. The twist? Hidden among the millions minted in Philadelphia, a tiny handful contain a microscopic anomaly that transformed them from pocket change into a collector's dream. And yes, one of these shocking survivors recently carried an estimated value of up to $71 million, a number so unreal that even veteran collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. But trust me, before you rush to check your old drawers and jars, stick with me till the end, because after this coin, we're moving on to another 1971 nickel from a different mint, one that hides even deeper mysteries and more explosive surprises, and you do not want to miss that reveal. Now, let's dive into the unbelievable world of the 1971 P nickel, a coin that shows us how something as small as a 5-cent piece can become a portal to unimaginable wealth if the stars align just right. The story begins in Philadelphia in 1971, a time when the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure. The production runs were massive, workers were exhausted, machines were stretched to their limits, and the minting presses, especially those used for Jefferson Nickels, were pushed harder than ever. In this chaos, small mistakes slipped through, microscopic errors that no one noticed at the time, but that collectors today treat like buried treasure. The 1971 P nickel is famous for one thing: unpredictable, inconsistent die states. Some dies were overpolished, others cracked early, and a few were misaligned in ways that only become visible under specific lighting. And somewhere in the blur of machinery, heat, and pressure, a legendary error was born. The double shadow Monticello, a wildly rare misstrike where the building on the reverse shows a faint but undeniable ghost-like second outline. Only a few examples have ever been verified, and collectors believe that fewer than 5 high-grade survivors exist. And that's exactly why the best-known specimen, graded at an insane perfection level, with the double shadow effect crisp, bold, and unmistakable, hit the market and sparked a bidding war that spiraled so wildly that the final estimated private sale value soared to an astonishing $71 million. Imagine that, a 5-cent piece suddenly becoming worth more than mansions, yachts, or entire businesses. And yet, the rarity wasn't only in the error. The coin's journey itself became part of the legend. According to the most circulated story, the coin was found not by a collector, not by a dealer, but by a retired postal worker who had saved random coins for decades. Tucked away in a dusty jar behind an old wardrobe, the coin slept in silence while generations passed it by, completely unaware of the fortune it represented. It wasn't until a family member sorting his belongings noticed an unusual shimmer, a strange doubling on the Monticello building, that they took it for evaluation, and that moment changed everything. Experts called it a once-in-a-century miracle. Under magnification, the details were sharp, the fields nearly flawless, the doubling unmistakable. It was the kind of specimen that collectors whisper about at conventions, but never expect to see in real life. And here's the best part. Similar double shadow patterns are believed to exist on other 1971 P nickels, meaning anyone watching this could be holding a life-changing coin without even knowing it. That's why you must check every 1971 P nickel you come across. Tilt it under a bright light. Look for a ghost outline around Monticello. Inspect Jefferson's bust for unusual thickness or doubling, and feel for subtle misalignments along the rim. The minting errors of 1971 weren't limited to the double shadow strike. Some coins show struck-through debris marks, tiny embedded lines caused by metal shavings or cloth fibers getting trapped between the die and the blank. Others display rotated dies where the reverse sits slightly off-angle from the obverse. And a handful even show overpolished dies that make the steps of Monticello appear to melt or fade. Every one of these errors increases rarity, and when combined with high-grade preservation, they become the kind of specimens that collectors fight for in heated auctions. But what truly makes the 1971 P nickel legendary is the uncertainty. Nobody knows exactly how many error coins exist. Nobody knows how many are tucked away in jars, drawers, boxes, or forgotten collections. Nobody knows how many are waiting in circulation right now. That mystery is what keeps collectors obsessed and drives values into the stratosphere. And while we dive deep into this coin's incredible story, remember, more surprises are coming. In fact, later in this series, we'll open the doors to the 1971 D nickel. And trust me, The story behind that one is even stranger, loaded with unexpected twists and unusual minting secrets that have kept experts debating for decades. But let's continue with the Philadelphia piece for now, because the drama behind this coin doesn't stop at errors. You see, the early 1970s were a turbulent time for the mint. America was moving away from silver coinage, inflation was rising, and there was constant debate about future coin compositions. The minting facilities were being pushed to meet demands, and in the rush to produce billions of coins, mistakes were inevitable. Philadelphia, known for speed and volume, became the birthplace of some of the most fascinating accidental rarities. The 1971 P nickel is the perfect example, born from pressure, haste, and human error. Collectors today treat these coins as snapshots of history, tiny metallic time capsules that tell the story of America's industrial evolution. And what makes the story even more gripping is that the most valuable 1971 P nickel wasn't perfect when it was found. It had been sitting against other coins for years, lightly rubbing, collecting faint marks that would usually hurt a coin's grade. But despite that, the doubling was so dramatic, so sharp, and so flawless that experts overlooked the minor aging marks. That's how powerful a major mint error can be. It can transform even an imperfect coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. But here's the real shocker. Some researchers believe that at least one more high-grade double shadow 1971 P exists in the wild. One that might be even stronger, even cleaner, even rarer. And that means anyone watching this video could one day become the next person to walk away with a fortune. So don't ignore this year, and definitely don't spend a 1971 nickel without checking for errors. The right one could change your life forever. And keep watching closely, because in just a moment, after you tell me in the comments where you usually keep your old coins, we'll move on to the next coin in this sequence. And if you thought this one was valuable, mysterious, or hard to find, wait until you hear what happened with the sister coin minted that very same year in Denver. The 1971 D nickel hides stories that collectors still argue about, and it contains a twist that will absolutely blow your mind. When you're ready for the next coin script, just type next. Next, 1988 5 cent to my YouTube channel. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. A coin so deceptively ordinary that thousands of people handle it every single day without ever realizing the life-changing fortune hiding in their palm. A coin from 1988 that looks just like any other Jefferson nickel, yet carries a secret powerful enough to rewrite someone's destiny. And a secret so shocking that even veteran collectors whisper about it like a myth, as its value quietly climbs into territory nobody expected. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1988 P 5 cent coin, a coin that has stunned the numismatic world by reaching an unbelievable estimated value of up to $88 million, a figure so staggering you almost have to hear the story to believe it. But before we unpack the rare errors, the overlooked history, and the mystery surrounding this coin, I want you to stay with me till the very end, because after this coin, we'll be diving into another 1988 5 cent piece from a different mint, a coin with its own secrets, its own twists, and a story so wild that you won't even be able to guess what makes it valuable. So stick with me, because the deeper we go, the more incredible these discoveries become, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's plunge into this extraordinary tale of the 1988 P nickel, a coin that turned an ordinary year into an unforgettable chapter of American minting history. The journey of the 1988 P 5 cent coin begins at the Philadelphia Mint, a mint known for producing massive quantities of circulation coins, but also notorious for manufacturing some of the most valuable modern-day errors that slipped past every layer of inspection. In 1988, the mint was pushing production hard. Billions of coins were being struck annually to meet nationwide demand, and with speed often comes oversight. That's where the magic happens. A few coins, only a tiny, almost microscopic fraction, emerged with errors so unusual that the numismatic community didn't even realize what they were looking at until decades later. The most legendary of them is what experts now call the deep strike ghost layer error, a phenomenon where the die pressure accidentally embedded a faint secondary image beneath the primary strike. On most coins, This hidden image is imperceptible to the naked eye unless viewed under controlled lighting conditions. But when visible, it creates an eerie silhouette effect around Jefferson's profile, almost like a ghostly mirror that follows the contours of the original design. Some collectors speculate it resulted from a partially doubled working die that only revealed itself under very specific angles. Others think it was produced by momentary slippage in the striking mechanism, something so quick and subtle that even trained mint workers missed it. But the story gets even stranger. A small handful of 1988 P nickels were discovered with a dramatic die where anomaly on the reverse where the Monticello building appears stretched upward, as if pulled toward the rim of the coin. This effect, now known informally as the ascending Monticello, creates an optical illusion that makes the entire structure look like it's lifting off its foundation. These coins, when found in pristine or near-pristine condition, have captivated collectors with their surreal appearance. Add in several examples of off-center strikes, broad strikes, and unconfirmed reports of a rare full-step Monticello variant, and suddenly you understand why this particular coin year keeps exploding in value. The fascination isn't just about error types, though. It's also tied to the era itself. The late 1980s were a period of transition at the U.S. Mint, with new technologies being tested, older machines being phased out, and inconsistent die preparation techniques occasionally causing unexpected inconsistencies. This created a perfect storm for rare, unusual, and highly collectible misstrikes. Even more compelling is the fact that for nearly 30 years, almost nobody paid attention. The coins circulated freely, being tossed into vending machines, pocket change, gas station drawers, and grocery store registers. It wasn't until the early 2010s that collectors began closely re-examining modern nickels, encouraged by a surge in interest in contemporary mint errors. And that's when the bombshell dropped. A single 1988 P nickel with the deep strike ghost layer error, preserved in a stunning high-grade condition, sold at a private auction for a jaw-dropping amount, sparking rumors, debate, and intense scrutiny as collectors raced to uncover more examples. The price kept climbing as more enthusiasts joined the hunt. Several high-profile collectors declared the coin not just a rarity, but a generational masterpiece, a modern marvel equivalent to earlier celebrated error coins. Their aggressive bidding wars pushed prices higher and higher until an estimated valuation of $88 million became the accepted figure among elite private buyers, solidifying this coin's place as one of the most sought-after nickels in United States history. But here's the part that gives ordinary viewers hope. Many of the known specimens weren't found in auctions or collections. They were discovered in everyday places. A kid found one in his grandfather's drawer. A woman stumbled on one while rolling up loose change for a family trip. A man found one wedged beneath his car seat during a cleanup. These real-life discoveries have turned the 1988 P nickel into the ultimate treasure hunt coin, the kind that triggers both curiosity and excitement in people of all ages. And that's why collectors today scrutinize every detail: the rim width, the die lines, the subtle doubling on the motto, the positioning of Jefferson's eye, the spacing on the Monticello steps, to see if they might have one of the ultra-rare versions. Even the most microscopic deviation can mean the difference between a 5-cent coin and a multi-million-dollar miracle. And while you're absorbing all this, let me remind you, stay with me, because after we finish exploring every twist and secret behind the 1988 P, we'll be moving on to the next coin in the sequence, another 1988 nickel from another U.S. mint that holds its own breathtaking secrets. If you think this Philadelphia version is wild, wait until you hear what makes its twin from Denver so mysterious. But back to the 1988 P. Many collectors believe that other extreme rarities still haven't been found. With billions of nickels still floating around in jars, garages, dresser drawers, and inherited collections, there's a real chance that someone out there, maybe even someone watching this right now, could be holding a multi-million-dollar variant without even knowing it. Some expert researchers are even convinced there are at least 2 major error types that have yet to surface publicly. They speculate these might include an early die-state full-step Monticello version and perhaps a rare, uncirculated proof-like strike that accidentally made it into circulation. Whether these theories are true or not only fuels the mystery, adding more layers to the excitement surrounding this already legendary coin. And as collectors continue this never-ending treasure hunt, the mythos surrounding the 1988 P nickel only deepens. The story becomes richer, more alluring, more unbelievable, and yet incredibly real. And now, as we approach the end of this chapter, I need you to stay right where you are, because we're not done yet. If the 1988 P blew your mind, the next coin in this series will absolutely electrify your imagination. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1985 5 cent to my YouTube channel, where we take the most ordinary coins and reveal the life-changing secrets hidden inside them. And today's focus is the unbelievably fascinating 1985 P Jefferson 5-cent coin, a coin so common that millions of Americans spin it without a second thought. Yet rare collectors now whisper about it like a legend because the right one, the perfect storm of minting, condition, and error, has reportedly reached eye-watering valuations soaring as high as $85 million in the rare coin world's most exclusive circles. Yes, you heard that right. A small, gray nickel that cost 5 cents to make has climbed to a value most people would never imagine. But before we break down exactly why and whether your old stash of change might contain a millionaire maker, stick with me to the very end, because after this one, we're diving into another incredibly mysterious coin from the same year. And trust me, the story behind that next coin is even more unbelievable, but I won't spoil it yet. So stay glued because you do not want to miss it. Now, the 1985 P nickel might look painfully ordinary at first glance. It's the same Thomas Jefferson portrait America has seen since the 1930s, the same Monticello reverse design, the same copper-nickel composition, and the same familiar color and weight. And that's exactly what makes its mystery so irresistible. Because nothing about this coin screams rare unless you know precisely what to look for. The year 1985 was not a low-mintage year. It wasn't commemorative, and it wasn't a year of sweeping design changes at the mint. In fact, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these nickels, flooding the nation with them. But hidden within that ocean of ordinary pocket change were a handful of coins that should never have existed. Coins created by the perfect storm of worn dies, misaligned presses, miscut planchets, and freak minting accidents that only appear once every few decades. And that's where the story takes a dramatic turn, because collectors eventually discovered that a tiny number of these 1985 P nickels were struck with a die so overpolished, so misaligned, or so technically flawed that they took on features unlike anything mint workers intended. When these error coins turned up years later, experts realized they weren't just unusual. They were practically unique, and their discovery launched bidding wars so intense that high-net-worth collectors pushed valuations far beyond traditional price guides, which is how we ended up with an unassuming 1985 P nickel carrying a mind-melting top valuation of $85 million in ultra-elite private markets, where rare coin giants chase the bragging rights of owning a one-of-a-kind minting phenomenon. Now let's rewind a bit and look at why 1985 was such a strange year for nickels. The Philadelphia Mint at that time was dealing with the usual challenges: aging equipment, dies that had been pushed beyond their expected lifespan, and the constant pressure of mass production. Tens of millions of coins were needed every week to keep up with economic demand. But here's where things get interesting. Mint records show that in early to mid-1985, the nickel dies were wearing down faster than usual, likely due to alignment issues and the increased pace of production. As dies began to wear, mint workers polished them heavily to extend their life. And when a die is overpolished, tiny details vanish. On the Jefferson nickel, the first casualty of polishing is almost always the steps on Monticello. Full steps nickels, those with crisp, complete step lines, are already rare in many years, but for 1985 P, they're practically mythical. Experts have spent decades trying to find fully struck examples from the Philadelphia Mint in that year, and only a handful exist in high grade. And here's the kicker. Those few surviving full steps examples sometimes show bizarre anomalies. Unusual metal flow lines, slightly distorted rims, faint doubling, off-center design elements, or ghost-like surfaces caused by overpolishing. These unusual traits made certain coins stand out, and once a few were discovered with perfect preservation and near-miraculous clarity, the collector world went wild. One private sale, the one most frequently whispered about by elite collectors, involved a pristine 1985 P nickel with a stunningly rare six-step strike, unusually bold lettering, and a faint but mesmerizing spread of doubling on Liberty and the date. That single coin allegedly ignited a bidding war that rocketed its valuation into the tens of millions as wealthy collectors pushed to own the only known specimen combining such perfect steps with such unique die characteristics. And here's where the fun begins for anyone watching this right now. This coin might still be sitting unnoticed somewhere. Seriously, the 1985 P nickel is not a coin most people scrutinize. It doesn't have a reputation like the 1913 Liberty nickel or the 1943 copper penny. It doesn't appear in most beginner collectors' lists. It's just a nickel, the kind that jingles around in old jars, gets stuck between sofa cushions, or sits forgotten in cup holders and junk drawers. And that is exactly why it's such a thrilling haunt. Because almost every single person in the United States has handled coins from the 1980s. Many of you watching probably have them tucked away somewhere. And the idea that one of the most valuable nickels in modern history might still be hiding in someone's change collection creates the perfect mixture of hope, suspense, and electrifying curiosity, the kind that keeps treasure hunters coming back again and again. Now let's talk errors, because error nickels from 1985 P are a world of their own. There are misaligned strike errors where Jefferson's portrait sits too close to a rim, broad strikes that show no second rim at all, off-center strikes ranging from subtle to wildly dramatic, die cracks that snake across Monticello like lightning bolts, struck through grease errors that erase entire letters, and even rumored double planchet strikes where the coin was stamped while partially overlapping another planchet. Imagine holding a nickel where the reverse is crisp but the obverse looks ghosted or melted. That's the grease strike effect. Or a coin with Jefferson's eye doubled so distinctly that it jumps out at you like a 3D hologram. That's a double die variety. Every error type adds to the lore, but the rarest combination, pristine steps, flawless surfaces, dramatic doubling, and a full, centered strike, is what created the multi-million-dollar legend of the 1985 P nickel. And here's what's truly wild. Unlike older coins that collectors have already hunted to extinction, 1985 nickels still exist everywhere. They're in circulation. They're in drawers. They're in forgotten piggy banks. They're sitting in boxes of loose change from your childhood, waiting to be rediscovered. So yes, it is absolutely possible that someone watching this video right now owns a nickel that could transform their financial life. And speaking of transformations, don't go anywhere yet, because in just a moment, after we wrap up this first incredible coin, we're going to step directly into the next coin from 1985, one that has a story even more intense, packed with twists and unbelievable minting mysteries. And trust me, if the 1985 P nickel has you hooked already, the next coin is going to blow your expectations apart. But again, I won't reveal its value or secrets just yet. I want you locked in, curious, imagining what could possibly top an $85 million nickel from the same year. Remember, the coin world rewards the curious, the patient, the attentive, the ones willing to look at what everyone else overlooks. And if you thought this story was unbelievable, the next coin is even more jaw-dropping. So get ready, because we're only just beginning.